Hello and welcome to Western Perspective. I'm Nelson Liu. With the coronavirus spreading fast and furious in the community, the state government has imposed tough measures that the younger generation has never seen before. With many businesses closed, livelihoods lost and families pushed to breaking point, there is blame, confusion and solutions that have yet to slow the rise of COVID-19. This week, I spoke to political expert Dr Ian Cook to analyse the government's response and the best way forward. Ian, thanks for your time. Everyone in Australia is doing it tough at the moment and the state government is no exception. Why has the response been so slow?
I think it's the nature of the problem is a key here, that this isn't something like anything we've dealt with much at all, and certainly not recently. So nobody was prepared for this. I mean, we talked about, viruses and pandemics as a result of globalisation, but, that was all theory. This is sort of the first real one we've seen. No one was ready. The information wasn't that clear. It's been slow getting out. Social media has played its effect in terms of confusing everyone with sort of mixed messaging. So we're all a little bit uncertain, and governments just don't have all the information they need to make, good policy right now.
How will you rate the government's crisis response and efforts at this stage?
I'm generally sympathetic to those in government. I think government's a sort of a difficult thing, and I think these are very difficult circumstances. So I'd say good. They're certainly not ahead of the game in any meaningful sense. We are tending to be reactive in our policy. I'd like to see a bit of clarity in terms of what it is we're looking to achieve. Is it flattening the curve at all costs with no interest in what that does to the economy? I mean, I'm not sure we're absolutely clear on that, and I think that's part of the problem.
So how do we get ahead of the game?
Well, I mean, I think part of it is to sort of get a sense of, okay, is this absolutely about flattening the curve, no matter what the economic cost, and we just do that, and we just keep everybody at home, we shut down public transport, we shut down schools, we just make it impossible for people to move around, and if we're going to go that way, well, I guess that's relatively clear. But if we're trying to do something to preserve an economy, trying to do something to sort of keep things going such that we don't hit as deep a recession as we could hit, well, that's a slightly different policy path, and I think we're a bit confused between those two paths.
Now, the real sticking points are these. Schools haven't closed, medical staffers don't have enough protection gear, and the argument about the timing of social shutdown. Will these decisions come back to haunt the Labor Party in the upcoming election in 2021?
I think everybody's going to be looking at governments in the future in terms of their responses to COVID. So I think, every time we're going to an election, or at least the next election, state election, federal election, that's going to be on people's minds. And I think that, government performance and their perception of government performance is going to be important in this election. And so, it's significantly a problem at the moment for, I think, both Scott Morrison and Mark McGowan, that there's just a bit of a sense that they're sort of not quite ahead, not quite clear, not quite taking us where people want us to go.
Why has there been so much confusion in the community on COVID-19? Well,
I mean, I think that there's a bit of lack of information, and that we just don't have enough to really know what's going on. I think there's, to some extent, conflicting information or potentially conflicting information. There's a degree to which where there's a lot of anxiety and neurotic panicking out there, and that's not helping anyone to think very clearly. So there's a lot of sort of fuzzy, thinking, and that's getting into the conversation. So, there's a lot of fuzz, there's a lot of mess, there's a lack of knowledge, there's a lack of information. We're all struggling in there.
Is the trust towards the government eroding because the AMA-WA president seems to be listened more by the public at this stage?
I'm not sure it's so much eroding. It might have eroded a little, but I think what we're really seeing is just the way that people don't tend to trust their politicians. They don't tend to believe them. And this is just one of those moments when they've got politicians being a little bit mixed, being a little uncertain, not absolutely clear that they want to go down the shut everything down path, versus the doctors who are sort of very clear, giving very simple messages. And so I think it's a lot easier to sort of say, the doctors know what they're talking about.
Dr Andrew Miller says they don't want to see another politician talking about clinical advice on camera. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I think that, we probably got enough of that sort of advice. But on the other hand, I guess we need to get and make sure the messaging is complete, and we need to get messages out there about, washing hands and physical distancing, but also messages about good health and healthy eating, healthy living, exercise, mental health. And so, I mean, if those messages are being put out by doctors, then great. If they're not sending out all of those messages, then maybe politicians do have a role, in those, health issues that we normally think are purely the province of doctors.
How can the doctors and politicians work better together?
Well, I think they need to sort of nut out this thing about what we're really trying to do, and it's absolutely sort of, smashing the curve, making sure it doesn't go anywhere, or are we trying to sort of do as much as we can without doing massive damage to the economy, and I think that to some extent we need a little bit of clarity out of our politicians principally, and they need to sort of own it if that's the way they're going to do it. If they're going to turn around and say no, purely about flattening the curve, then we just do exactly what the doctors tell us.
Are you indicating that there's a loss of direction here?
I'm indicating there's problems with direction, that we are, that politicians, as they should, sort of have bigger concerns than the immediate health implications, and they're worried about saddling future generations with massive debt and a crippled economy and a popping of the housing bubble and, really tragic sort of consequences, long-term tragic consequences of, a scale that, is imaginable but only just.
And before we finish, what's your message to young people?
Well, I think the young people need to be seen to be responsible. They need to be seen to be, doing the physical distancing, because otherwise the adults look down on them. But mostly I'm concerned that they look after themselves, look after their health. Eat well, get exercise. Maybe given they're locked away now, they might sleep better, because that's a good thing too. So, look after yourselves is the message I'd say, because if you can stay healthy, you're a much better chance of fighting off a virus should it be in your vicinity.
And that's all the time we have for this week. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again next week, but until then, it's back to you, Ivan and Sarah.
Thank you, Nelson. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on the website and social media pages.
Until next Sunday after 8 p.m, thanks for watching, look after yourselves and have a pleasant evening.
Take care.